Welcome to today's NextGen Nexus Los Angeles virtual education session. My name is Kathleen Tepley, and I'm the founder and CEO of Los Angeles Consulting Group. Today's presentation is titled Branding NextGen Family Businesses. This is an exciting topic. This is a topic that comes up for us with a lot of our families. Our goal in hosting these informative sessions is to bring you impactful topics and highly acclaimed speakers such as Sasha. And we're excited because this is the second time I've seen Sasha, and I'm really excited to see what he has in store for us today. Before we get started, here are a few housekeeping items. As a benefit of attending today's session, early next week, we'll be sending you out a thank you email. And on that thank you email, we'll have a few highlights from today's topic, contact information from our speaker to continue the conversation, and a video link. Either you can just view it or you can share it. We encourage you to share it with other family members or people within your community. Also, during today's session, there's a chat box at the bottom, and Sasha can see the chat box. So if you've got questions, feel free to put them in there. And between him and I and Alan, we'll make sure that we try to address some of those. So next, to open today's session, let's welcome our speakers, Alan Esrock and Sasha Strauss. And I will start with Alan, and he can share more about Sasha. First, if you do not know him, it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Alan Esrock. Alan is the founder of NextGen Nexus, the first local global community of family businesses and family office NextGens whose lives were shaped by working in or for the family enterprise. Alan understands this world because he started working for Big Man's Shop, his family business, when he was 5 years old. After college, he joined Macy's department store buyer training program in preparation to return to run the business, and that didn't happen. Alan moved to Los Angeles and pursued his dream of being a television comedy writer, and after tasting success, he realized he hated being a television writer and became a leader in the digital entertainment world as an executive recruiter, a consultant, and an entrepreneur. One of his companies, Jitterfingers, was a safe social networking solution for tween girls and their BFFs, an online club in 200 plus cities in the US and 12 countries. After Jitterfingers, Alan returned to executive recruiting and was asked to speak at a family business event. And he recognized that while the world has changed, the unique needs of NextGens remain the same. He started NextGen Nexus to create a community where NextGens could meet, learn, and grow from each other's experiences. And I am honored and excited to turn this event over to Alan. Alan?
Thank you, Kathleen. And welcome to Branding Next Generation Family Businesses with Sasha Strauss. If you haven't heard Sasha speak, I suggest that you go to the bathroom, get something to drink, kick your dog, cat, spouse out of the house, because once Sasha starts, you're just not going to be going anywhere. As Kathleen suggested, I'm a family business guy. So I view the entire world through the prism of a family business lens. During Easter and Passover, I started to think about the first family business book. And of course, that book is the Bible. Well, why do I say that? Cain and Abel, a story about the rivalry between two brothers. The birthright story. I mean, they call it the birthright story. And in this story, Jacob and his mother, Rebecca, plot together to steal his brother's birthright. I mean, this sounds like next season of Succession to me. And it makes sense that the Bible would be relevant for family business issues because family business is the oldest type of business entity. And if you have a family business, you have family business problems. And these problems are hard, they're painful, and they're real. NextGen Nexus is a community that understands your family business issues because we've lived your family business issues. We provide a safe place to engage with peers, with professionals, and at the end of the day, maybe even have a bit of fun. We don't think of the family business as a problem. We think of it as a platform to work towards your personal, family, and professional goals. Now, while I'm happy to talk about family business past, I'm excited to introduce Sasha, who's here to talk about family business future. Sasha is the founder of Innovation Protocol, a terrific brand strategy firm. Their ability to inspire while they inform is why brands such as Disney, Nestle, PayPal, Google, and Korn Ferry have called on them for consulting and thought leadership. And if that's not enough, Sasha also teaches brand strategy at the graduate business programs of UCLA, UC Irvine, and USC. Why we're so excited is because Sasha is an international speaker, has delivered over 500 original speeches, 30 industries in 20 countries. It doesn't get better than this. So I'm proud and excited to introduce Sasha Strauss.
Thanks so much, Alan. Thank you, Kathleen. So glad to be here with all of you today. I will keep the chat open, so if you want to pose a question as this is all going down, I'm ready for you. If you want, you can also pin me. If you click on my picture and click pin, and that way, in case there's background noise from other folks on the line, I'm still the one that's in the middle. Look, it's Thursday. The world's going through a lot right now. I hope I can bring a little energy, a little inspiration. I know a lot of you advise family business. Some of you are leaders of family business. I'm going to try and address all of you. I'm trying to help each of you understand the power of brand and what it can do for any business, especially a family business. But I just want to take a hand poll for those of you on screen. Who is tired of attending Zoom meetings? Yes, me too. So I hope to do things a little differently here for you. I'm going to use a contraption I made. My father's an orthopedic surgeon, bones, muscles, and joints and such. And so orthopedic surgeons use these rods and these nuts when they're fixing legs and arms that are broken, these external fixators. And I grew up in my father's family business he is a physician, as I stated. So I grew up in the hospital, in his office, playing with these toys. And so here we are, I'm using them to make a contraption to entertain you. But just because I've got this contraption and these funky cards I'm about to show you doesn't mean I'm not ready for an interruption or a question. So just raise your hand or chime in when you're ready. Oh, also a couple rules of engagement. These are my rules for my university classes, so try not to be offended. Please eat, drink, swivel in your chair, put your hands behind your head, do whatever it is that you do to relax and engage content. I don't expect you to be stuck to the screen and do whatever you want to do. And by the way, if you want to take a picture of what I'm sharing, just hold the phone up and take a picture of the screen. I'm not going to be offended. Whatever your process is, I'm here for your process. All right? Sound good? Cool. So let's get to these cards. So you can imagine that I'm going to talk to you about branding, but what I want to really help you understand is that I'm not asking any of you or any of your clients to go make up a story. Okay? Brand strategy is specifically about being as intentional and clear about what you do and why you do it as possible. You can imagine that your audiences are confused, they're distracted, you have competitors encroaching on their consciousness. And so what brand strategy simply says is you want to be a well-run business, you want to be a well-regarded business, you need to speak up. It doesn't mean you have to speak up about things that are not true or say things that are outside of the boundaries. It just simply means put things in order, make it clear and easy for me to know you, advocate for you, refer to you, etc. This is going to be the driving energy of our conversation today, but I have to address the elephant in the room, which is we are in the midst of COVID as a crisis. I'm not going to be talking about COVID, the disease today. I'm going to be talking about COVID, the economy, and the economic business brand opportunities within it. So stick with me as I go through this with you. We're all troubled by the frustrations of COVID. I want to just really put an emphasis on how the economic changes are an opportunity to really do something incredible. And in order to do that, you're going to have to kind of stop counting the days and say, is it going to be better tomorrow? Is it going to be better tomorrow? Best thing you could probably say to your clients is, hey, let's look to 2022. Let's grab a big grappling hook, swing it over our head, and reach out for the future and know that that's what we're driving towards. Nothing I'm going to ask you to do today should you implement in the next 36 hours. Everything that I'm going to be discussing is about what are we going to do for the next few years? How are we going to behave, communicate, act over the next few years to ensure we're building up as much equity and trust as possible? And something to point out is I'm not just trying to build equity for your customers. I don't want them to just get customers to believe. I want the employees inside the family business to also believe. You know how important employee retention is. You know how important it is to have employees speak on your behalf and recruit new employees. All right, so just know that I'm not just talking about acquiring new customers or acquiring new audiences. I'm actually talking here specifically about employees as well. Got it? Tracking with me? Cool. Again, the chat is open and I'm here to serve you. Part of this COVID economy is the change in lifestyles that have occurred. You know that as we were locked down, we were forced to do new things. And so as humans, we adapt. You know, we're one of the most adaptable species. And so what I want to point out here is that you can be a little predictive about your clients and their categories by just being a little visionary, by acknowledging that we were forced to adapt and some of those adaptations are not going to go away. I imagine if anyone on this call has tried to recruit a new employee, you're doing your first few interviews on Zoom and it kind of works. You can interview more talent faster than you ever could before. And I don't think that that's going to go away. So here's how I'm going to put this out there for you to contemplate. And even though I'm using doodles and I'm in the branding business and have been in the branding business for 24 and a half years, nobody ever paid me to draw anything. So these are not going to be good doodles. They're just going to meet the need of not being a crazy Zoom presentation. So let me start by saying this. One of the things that's really interesting about the behaviors over the last year, and especially in 2020, was that people bought things that we didn't know they were going to buy. So for example, as you know, the stationary bike business just totally blew up. Or the kitchen appliance business. Kitchen appliance manufacturers couldn't manufacture fast enough, and the retailers were basically inventoryless. Okay, that's what happened in 2020, and gosh, wouldn't it have been amazing if we could have predicted those outcomes. But what I'm going to talk about here in a second are some catalysts that can help you kind of predict what 2022 might look like, and maybe you can get ahead of the curve and be a planner rather than a reactor. So let me give you a couple examples of the things that I think are really going to exacerbate this change. As you know, listening to the news, no matter what side of the spectrum you're on, there are trillions. Wow, that's a lot of money. You understand the significance of trillions, what that does to an economy, what that does to purchase behavior, et cetera. And I say that because one example is the amount of US currency in circulation right now. There's, in the last 18 months, the amount of US currency that has been printed to about 25% of the dollar is new and it's going to be spent. It's going to be spent in interesting ways. How can you get ahead of it? How can your customers get ahead of it? And
hey, Sasha, we've got some technical issues with you.
You're having an echo.
Well, you're freezing. So we want to just let you know there's a little bit of a technical glitch right now.
Okay, thank you for telling me. I'm just going to connect to the same connection and make sure that we're good. Thank you for noting.
Yeah, it went yellow, so.
Okay, 1 second, just a separate connection here. Okay, great. How does that work, Kathleen?
I see you. We're still yellow, but I can see you and you're moving. So okay, I think perfect. You're good.
Yeah, we're good. Okay, please stop me in the middle if the connection is lost. Good. Thank you for that, Kathleen. So again, I'm talking to you folks about the trillions of dollars that are entering the economy as we speak. But what's also so fascinating is that folks over 65 were sort of left out of the digital economy pre-COVID. They kind of were just not considered in the application environment or the marketing. But as you know, because boomers became Zoomers overnight with COVID, actually 65 and over are frequently using apps. They're banking with apps. They're lawyering with apps. It's astounding. And so that's a really interesting new factor in our economy, is that basically a whole generation of people has been reintroduced into the economy and are participating in groundbreaking ways. Some examples of, you all know someone over 65 who's having their groceries delivered at the curb or having their food ordered in advance before they go to the grocery store. That's phenomenal. That was not calculated in the Silicon Valley's business plan. So along with all of this, along with the senior citizens, people over 65 being reintroduced into the digital economy, the trillions of dollars that governments are flushing into their citizenry. Another thing that's kind of incredible is that there's 5 times more money in personal savings in the United States than there has ever been. 5x the amount of savings. We're watching our employees with money burning a hole in their pocket. They do not know where to put the money. And these are employees who ask for raises all the time, et cetera. Why? Well, they're not going to Starbucks 3 times a day. They're not blowing hundreds of dollars in bars on the weekend. And so you have to ask yourself, where's all this money going to go? And that's why I really, really want you to think deeply about the transition we all went through over the last year. We thought we could only buy property if we saw it. We thought we could only negotiate with our lawyers face to face. We thought so much that actually turned out to be not true. And 9/10 of our relationships seamlessly converted to digital. I'm not saying that all of them forever are going to stay that way, but you have to ask yourself, how is this changing the way that I'm doing business? How is it changing the way your customers are doing business? And how can you win? How could you be way out front, a winner in this conversation rather than just a responder? So part of what we saw take place in this economy, in this sort of like, hey, can we do this digital economy, is that we saw folks succeed and we saw folks fail. And for those of you on this Zoom, I suspect that you opted in. You were like, fine, if this is how I'm going to interact with my audiences, so be it. But there's a lot of folks in your ecosystem that said, no, sorry, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait it out. I'm going to see if we can go back to the way things were. And I'll have to tell you, we work across categories, probably clients in 20 categories right now. The winners were not category specific winners. The folks that won in the last year are the ones who acknowledged remote selling, remote teaching, remote leading is a new part of the economy. It is now a fundamental ingredient in how our economies will work. We have a lot of international clients. The amount of flying we used to have to do in order to engage the leadership, well, that's changed now. And as long as you can engage in this channel, you can get a lot more done faster. And why I thought this was kind of amazing, kind of interesting and inspiring for you, I hope, is that what came out of this was we kind of abandoned like how long is your resume and focused more on how well do you resonate? Are you connecting? Can I understand you? Do you feel that this is comfortable? Is this working? Are you following through in this channel? And it's important to realize that this took effort. It took effort, but my point is simply this. There wasn't a category that got traumatized. There's a behavior that got traumatized. Folks that were not interested in this adaptation got left behind. And so not only do I not want you to get left behind, I really want to push you to believe that your future is to be agnostic about your front, to not actually care whether or not it happens face to face or at a conference or at a trade show. Even though you might like, schmoozing here or there, you have to be just as content for it to happen in this environment or in an offline channel. And my favorite example of this is what Best Buy basically went through over the last year. Best Buy, the large North American retailer for electronics, they always preferred you walk into their big box. That was their business model. That's how they made their money. They made their money with you walking in their box. Well, obviously COVID required new behaviors. And so now their corporate policy is, we do not care how you come to us. We do not care how you want to be served. We love you just as much. I know it sounds kind of, California cheesy, but you get it. The consumer doesn't want you to say, oh, you don't want to do the meeting on Zoom? Okay, fine. Or, oh, it has to be face-to-face. Well, then we're going to have to wait a month. The audience wants you to say, however we want to meet, however I want to meet, I want you to be content with it. And let me show you an example of this. My company, Innovation Protocol, has 25 people in it. And we always really focused on face-to-face time. We would fly employees across country for team meetings and such. And we were shocked to see how quickly our calendars pivoted to like, oh, this digital slot, that digital slot. Oh, Tuesday mornings, Thursday afternoons, Friday mornings, it was with this team. And I think that this doodle, you probably all manifested yourself, where you went from what was driving across town or going to that annual conference, and you adapted your calendar to a place where, wow, virtually every minute of every day can be monetized. You can get a lot more done faster because of this digital channel. I'm not trying to over celebrate it. I'm just trying to help you all realize how present this transformation is. Going to do another audio check. Kathleen, can you give me a thumbs up that we're connected and strong? All right. Thank you, Lee. Always a good listener, Lee. Appreciate you. Cool. So let me give you an example of this. You saw a lot of folks on Zoom over the last year, a lot of them. Some of them cared, some of them didn't care. The ones who didn't care are in the dark. They're not fitting on screen. You're looking up at their nostrils all the time while they're attending the meeting. Look at people moving around right now. You know what I'm talking about. There were folks who said, yeah, I can't hang. It's not my thing. And the folks who said, I don't care. I don't like this. I'm going to participate. And it really, really makes the difference. All of you know this. When someone centers themselves on screen, lifts up their laptop with 2 books, puts a light where it needs to be, you say, wow, this person means business. And that's just one adaptation. Another adaptation comes directly from all the social media channels that are just, you know, either destroying or saving the planet. You can decide. I started drawing this doodle at the onslaught of COVID, and I ran out of space. Can you see that I have no more space for social environments? You're probably hearing a lot about Clubhouse and TikTok. The only thing I want to point out is what this did to the business environment. You know that when you see something on social media like Facebook or LinkedIn, you click like on it, right? You kind of add an endorsement, you make a comment, you add value to it. All right, well, that was not an enterprise behavior. Businesses did not do that before. Employees did not make comments about other employees' files in the old day. In the new day, it's astounding. We'll have a company meeting and the chat on the side is as active and as important as whatever the actual meeting is. And people post a file saying, hey, the project got done today, John. And what are people doing? Clicking like, thumbs up, heart, great job. Michael, you did such a good job. It's unbelievable. These new behaviors are not going to go away. And let me give you an extreme example of this. If you've ever employed a millennial, you know that millennials started saying, hey, can we have an employee review every quarter? And some of us are like, you know, I was lucky to get an employee review once a year, friend. Millennials ask for quarterly. You know what Gen Z is asking for, right? Weekly feedback. Weekly feedback. And you know what? You can judge them for it, but they're probably right. They'll probably get better faster with that prevalence of feedback. Well, that's exactly what these enterprise social tools have done. Microsoft Teams, Slack, Zoom, there's constant feedback happening. Let me give you an example. You have a reaction button where you can throw a thumbs up right on the screen. Everyone can see it. I can see it. No interruption. Well, if I'm an employee doing a really important presentation and you want to acknowledge me while it's happening, boom, you got the power to do it. These are new expectations. These are going to be the way in which we expect you to behave and act. And so all I'm trying to emphasize today is if you're in for the next evolution of business over the next 3 years, what you do right now is going to have an exponential impact post-COVID. Remember, we're going to have a hybrid era for a little while. Not all the nations are vaccinating as fast as America is. Not all states are vaccinating as fast as America is. Certain states are. So my point is simply this. I'm asking you to take this as an opportunity. The things that you do to adapt and comply now will have exponential return once life is somewhat normal. All right? So this is my emphasis today. I'm going to ask you to do some things that I think are going to have exponential impact. Thank you, Heath. Go ahead, enjoy the picture. See, that's how I know Heath is paying attention. You see that? Just throws up his camera. Lee is smiling because he wants to take a picture too. Good. So what am I trying to push to you? I'm trying to push that there was absolutely a pre-COVID time. You know, depending on where you pray, you know, is it before the Common Era or after Christ? You could pick your designation. But my point is simply this. There was a time before COVID. I don't think it's ever going to be exactly like that again. There's clearly this COVID era that's happening right now. And then there's going to be, in this predictable future, 12 months, 18 months, a post-COVID era. And it's kind of incredible because after COVID, after this is done, the businesses that thrived now, the ones that participated now, the ones who connected and accepted this fate are the ones who are going to reign then. And so this is the pressure I'm trying to put on you today. I'm asking you, who do you want to be, or who do your clients want to be in an after COVID-19 era? Okay, so that's the intention. I do a lot of presentations and I know it's hard to listen to, so I try to make my presentations a little dramatic. I intentionally just laddered you up to like, hey, guess what? There's lots of opportunity. I'm going to tell you about the challenges. You deserve to hear about those challenges. Like any great story, I need to kind of add some drama and heat. And then I'm going to come around the bank and we're going to talk about all the things that you and your customers can do to win in this unrivaled era of change. So let's talk about some of the challenges. One of the challenges you have is, whoa, TV the babysitter. Wow, we used to keep our kids away from those screens. No, only 20 minutes a night. And now it's like, I've got a Next Gen Nexus presentation. Can you put the kids in front of the TV? You know, it's one of those things where TV watching is way up. You know, Netflix is like, the joke is, you know, am I going to run out of Netflix because people are consuming so much of it? Video games, never done better. More hours, more attention, more usage. It's astounding. All right, to me, that's a little concerning and scary because, you know, these screens can really suck you in and they distract from true education. And I want to put out there that not only are we kind of okay with screen time right now, we've lost faith in our politicians, in our healthcare governors, in our World Health institutions. We're just like, you know, the crisis came upon us and nobody knew what to do. No one knew. No one knew how long it was going to take. No one knew what the protocols were supposed to be. Not the economists, not the scientists. No one knew, which is unnerving. I mean, it's like, what, really? So this week I wear 2 masks and next week I don't have to wear any masks? You know, like, I'm not here to make it political. I'm just trying to point out that we kind of don't know. We still don't know. And it's scary and frustrating. And customers, your clients are scared of this. They don't know if they should listen. They don't know who they should trust next. The reason why they don't know who to trust is because the change happened so fast. You know, all of us have been around long enough to know that when our nation goes to war, we tend to talk about it. We send over some troops, then we move over more resources. It unfolds over time. Do you remember March, I don't know, 11th? You know, it was like, oh, I guess I'm not going into the office today. The change was so rapid. We went from primarily being face-to-face people to being only digital, only. Like, this is it. It's how it's going to go. And I want to show you an extreme example of this change, how much it affected the way that business in the future is going to operate. One of our clients is the largest health system in Colorado. And kind of amazing, they, along with a lot of the leading health systems in the United States, have had what was called their 7-year innovation plan. 7-year innovation plan. And all of you should be smiling because you know what happened to that plan. You know, the 7-year plan said, oh, in 7 years, HIPAA, you know, privacy rights, will adapt enough that we might be able to let a patient dial in to a meeting with their physician. But right now, we don't care how sick and disabled you are, you need to come across town and come into this building for your health care. Well, you know what happened, right? Well, within 20 days of the COVID crisis unfolding, healthcare systems said, telehealth, here we go. Doctors can do consults in their living room. I mean, it's just amazing how fast this has transitioned. One really significant example of this is if any of you has a Amazon or Google smart device in your home, I can't say the name of it because it'll turn on over there. You know what I'm talking about, everybody. Well, guess what? HIPAA law said that you can't have a smart internet connected device in your hospital rooms because it's listening, patient privacy. 8 out of 10 hospital rooms in North America now have a smart device in it. Why? So the patient can check the weather, so the patient gets reminded when they're supposed to take their pharmaceuticals, so the patient can ask about the news. Yeah, it's now integral to patient care, especially in senior facilities. So I just wanted to give you an example of how tumultuous and disruptive this change was. It took the most restricted category, unlocked a 7-year plan that had to unfold in 30 days. 30 days. Another example of a 30-day, 30% change is what happened to commercial real estate, religions, academic institutions. Alan mentioned that I teach at a few universities. I'm here to let you in on a little secret. Universities, even though their tuition is high, they make no money on their tuition. It's a break-even game for them. The 3 universities that I teach at all make their margin on, drumroll please, anyone want to guess, how do these large universities make their money? Parking fees and, yeah, William, they don't make any money. Parking fees and concessions. Feeding that campus where there's 5,000 people coming on campus on any given day, parking and concessions. Well, even though we want to go back to campus, it's never going to go back to 100%. It's always going to be hybrid going forward. Well, that means that these universities have lost a significant percentage of their profit potential. Or commercial real estate, where we had some pretty bold claims that everyone's going to be working remotely forever. And now, as you know, we're all adapting, we're going to transform. But are we going to go back to 5 days a week, must be in office? No. We know that there's going to be probably 30% less use of commercial real estate. Well, when commercial real estate makes its money on parking and rent, you can imagine, for example, there's a company in New York called Spotify. It's a big music service. You probably know Spotify. They have 14 floors of the World Trade Center buildings, 14 floors. And during COVID, 0 people came into that office, 0. They effectively transitioned to being a remote workforce. Okay, do you know what 14 floors in the World Trade Center building costs? I mean, come on, people. They're never going to do that again. It doesn't make sense to their bottom line. So maybe they have 1 floor now. Give them 3 floors. Well, when you're in commercial real estate, you got to ask yourself a question. How is this crevasse, this hole in the earth's crust, how is this going to make for the future of business? I don't know, but it's something I'm contemplating every day. Another thing that I'm contemplating is that as much as this is working right now, I think this would have been better face-to-face. Do you guys agree? Would have been better? Yeah, we can. Okay, well, so the problem with this is that, one, you have to look at yourself in the frickin' face all day. You know you're the most critical person. You're the worst person to yourself. As much as people might say you leave a lot of trash around the house, honey, you're the meanest to yourself. And so what are you doing all day? You're being mean to yourself. You're seeing yourself in a little rectangle and you're like, oh, come on, self. Well, on top of this, employees need love. They need engagement. They need to see you fidget and they need to eat with you. So as much as this has become the way, this is different. It's not as good. We don't like it as much. It's not as effective. And so as much as I'm celebrating this transformation, trust me, I don't think it's the answer. And the crazy part of all of this is that we used to have news sources and political leaders and UN institutions. They had the voice. They could buy the media, you know, the religions, the huge sports leagues. They could own the dialogue. You know, all of us are old enough to remember that when we turned the television on at midnight in the 80s, what was on the screen at midnight in the 80s? Nothing. Yeah, or fuzz. Thanks, Dennis. Yeah, fuzz, you know, or those color bars. Eee, right? Remember that noise? Eee. Okay. They were like, no more content for you. And then boom, there's content 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And on top of this, people are not getting their news primarily from television or radio from primary broadcasters. NPR, CBS, Fox, pale in comparison to the social media news consumption that's going on. All right. For people on their mobile phone, right, Michael? That's where my news comes from every day. Well, the crazy thing is that we used to get our news from, I don't know, refined sources or credentialed sources. And now everyone's got the same voice weapon. It's astounding, the cacophony of noise. Who do you know to listen to? And every time you read something that seems factually accurate, then you read the comments and you're like, ow, wow, ooh. All right, well, insane. With so many different voices having the same voice weapon, you got to ask yourself, who am I supposed to listen to? And it's amazing. The World Health Organization has designated a whole new type of exhaustion. you know, you can call it Zoom fatigue or remote work fatigue or digital fatigue or social media fatigue. There's lots of different factors. But the truth is, aren't you exhausted? I mean, it's Thursday and it feels like a Friday, and Monday probably felt like Thursday too. I mean, it's astounding. This exhaustion, you know, you quote, stop work at the end of the day and you try to sit down. And as soon as you sit down, that phone is a buzzing. You're not disconnected. You're still getting interrupted. This exhaustion is real. It's real. And I really want to emphasize that I'm not trying to celebrate how amazing this new digital frontier is. I'm also here to tell you, this is hard work. And that's why I really want brand to be a top of mind function for all of you. With this much noise, this much chaos, the only thing that's going to be remembered is that which is consistent, that which is well told, that which is durable, that which is authentic, that which is differentiated. All those words I just said are trick words for branding. Now, because I'm trying to make this dramatic, I have to point out something which is kind of amazing. Part of my work is that I travel constantly. I used to travel constantly. The joke was, what plane is Sasha on today? I did calculations to try to figure out that on average, I stepped on 3 commercial airplanes a week. And I'd done that for at least the last 15 years, if not the last 20. And it was crazy, you know, as I mentioned, my father was a doctor. He was a physician in the US Navy. So we were in Italy, we were in Malaysia, we were in Germany, you know, and I sort of grew up and then professionally believed that I was an internationalist. Sasha's an international citizen. I'm a citizen of the world. I know cultures. I love cultures. I've prayed in all prayer halls. I've eaten at all tables. And I'll tell you, as much as I love to believe that, what a lie. You know, what a lie. I mean, look at everyone on the screen, depending on where you grew up and who you pray to and what you eat. We're not the same, right? We're not the same. Well, what's crazy about right now is that everyone had to go on lockdown. Everyone's economy was disrupted. All of us. This is the first time that potentially everyone on the screen has had the same trauma. Same trauma. We all feared for our lives. We all feared for our friends and family. We all lost friends and family. All right. Well, what that says is that for the first time, everyone you're speaking to is a new kind of vulnerable, a new kind of stunned. And it means something important. It means something important about what you dare say next. Because when you recognize that your customer is traumatized, when you recognize that their employees are traumatized, I think your voice is going to change a little bit. You're not going to come out and say, biggest, fastest, strongest. We're the newest. We're the most innovative. We're the best place to work. You better bet on us. Because the fact is that even the best places to work now have traumatized employees. I'm not claiming this, but I think we all are expecting a little PTSD. I think that there's going to be years of healing required to come back from what this did to all of us. And so I'm going to turn the corner here and tell you about what all of this emotional accessibility means. I told you already, I'm walking you through a process here. We covered the situation. I just dragged you through the mud on all the considerations and drama that is a real part of our challenges today. But I want to round out our conversation and open up for questions and discussions by first addressing the opportunity before us. And the opportunity is significant enough that I would say family business will never be the same. Family business will never be the same. There is a complete reboot on humanity going on right now. Our view on faith, our view on travel, our view on government, our view on savings, our view on employment, all being renewed, are already renewed. And in that renewal, there is opportunity. Because where someone is abandoning the relationships that didn't pan out over COVID, or firing the consultant that didn't adapt, that is opportunity for growth, opportunity for engagement, for those of us who acknowledge that life is fundamentally different now. So everything I'm going to talk about right now is for the think and doers. If you're a wait and seer, we could just call it a day right here. Just thanks for the time and appreciate you dialing in. But thanks, William. If you're a think and doer, let's get after this. What are we going to think about and do to ensure that not only do we survive this window, But after COVID-19, we're the darling. We're the example. We're the best in class. We're who our clients see as a leader. So it requires you to all agree that branding is important. You think about the products, the services, the solutions, the partnerships that are part of your business. The challenge is that each one of these is unique. They each have a different cadence. What brand does is it binds them. It creates a common dialogue across them so that whether I read your newsletter today or meet with a coworker of yours face-to-face tomorrow or hear from a partner down the week, there is something enduring, something that sticks, that reminds me who it's coming from and why. Now, this is the fundamental of branding, but I want to show you why it's so big and hairy now. You probably have heard of advertising, marketing, and public relations your whole lives, but I want to change those words for you for a second. Advertising tended to be the mechanism. Can you see, William? Should I zoom in a little bit? It's good? Yeah, perfect. So advertising tended to be the mechanism that you use to introduce people for the first time, fifth time to your business. Let me give you a parallel. You're driving on the road and you see a sign on the side of the freeway, or you're listening to the radio and you hear an ad come on. You know, that advertising was like, hey, listen to me, buy from us, come to the game. That was really an introductory behavior. It was like, hey, we exist, know us. Once someone knew that you existed, you then earned the right to explain stuff to them. And that's where marketing tended to fit. Websites, brochures, a trade show. Marketing is really an explanatory action, right? I say marketing and you see it's like a longer format conversation than an ad would have been, okay? So if advertising introduced and marketing explained, eventually, once you had that employee, that investor, that donor, you wanted to stay engaged with them. And that's why it was called investor relations or public relations or employee relations. Well, what I really want to help you see now is this upper echelon here, this I see. This is the stuff I pay for. This is the stuff I earn. This is the stuff that ends up being free. When employees advocate for me, when customers advocate for me, when people re-forward my LinkedIn post, that's the best media you can buy. It's the juiciest, it's the most engaging, but it needs to be earned through a series of dialogues. And so what I'm going to be focusing on now is whether you're introducing yourself, explaining yourself, or engaging the audience that has accepted the invite, what are you going to say? How are you going to engage them? Well, where am I coming from on this? I've had the same job for a long time. I happened to started a business doing this not too long ago, but everything I do every single day is focused on this topic, brand strategy, the strategic and intentional expression of who you are and why you matter. I teach it in university classes and have for 15 straight years. I do it for clients in all kinds of categories every single day, from microchipped to food, you pick it. And I do a lot of talks, a lot of speeches to a lot of conferences. The conference I was just talking with before you today, if you think Next Gen Businesses is nuanced, the conference I was just talking to is the Fermentation Society of America. They only deal in the fermented food business. And guess what? The protocols are the same. So let's talk about the protocols. These are the three things, and I'm going to give you the tools to attach to them. Three things. And again, I'm going to get into each one of them. One of them is to recognize that you don't just get to make money anymore. I also want to know how you're saving the world while you make money. Okay? That's what I call working like an impactor. Okay? And when I say working like an impactor, I don't just want to know how your business thrives. I want to know what impact it also has on society. I'm going to dig into each of these, so don't worry, but just take note, work like an impactor, okay? Second thing to note is I've been saying all day, you know, business is different now. The expectation is different now. It functions different now. That means that there needs to be change in the enterprise and how the business operates. Can you be the one that makes the change? Can you, as a family business leader, maybe you're not the name on the, you're not the actual founder, you're the second gen, the third gen of the founder. Fine. Well, guess what? You have a superpower now. You get to change and adapt the business so that it thrives in this new era, and the new way that people engage the sales team, and the new way that people engage content, watch videos, or pursue a job opportunity. So again, we'll talk about both of these. Work like an impactor, enterprise like a maker. Recognize that you are a builder now. I don't care how long your family has been in the business is literally different now. Okay, great. How does the business need to adapt to thrive, and who's going to lead that adaptation? For a lot of our clients that are second or third gen, where the first gen is still around, this is the key to that second gen person really making an impact on the business, right? They're 20 years younger, 30 years younger than the leader. Well, what are you going to, hey, Sonny, I see that you have the same last name, huh? What are you going to do to our business? Well, customers want to engage the sales folks remotely some of the time now. How are we going to show up as the sales force that is totally comfortable with remote sales? All right, well, that's enterprising like a maker. The third piece here is to stop waking up every morning looking at your toes and saying, how's the business day going to go? Although that might feel like you're surviving, you're not going to thrive if you wake up every day asking yourself, where's the business going now? And that's why I'm not talking about branding. I'm talking about brand strategy. And you know, strategy comes from war planning. Take any great battle, any great fighter, and you know, if you just jump into the battle, you're probably not going to win. Whereas when you observe the landscape, you assess your competitors' resources, you check the weather. World War II was won by weather. I mean, really, okay, folks, so my point is this. Great business leaders understand that branding is about strategic actions over time. Durable, consistent, strategic actions over time. Let's talk about those actions. First and easiest action for branding a next-gen business now is to listen. So many next-gen leaders I talk to say, well, I've been in the business 50 years. So, I know everything there is to know about how our category works. Sorry, there were no websites 50 years ago, and I don't care what you sell. If you don't have a digital storefront or a digital presence, you're not in real business. And so what we say in branding is, let discovery be the insight. Let discovery be where your wisdoms are found. And what is discovery? Discovery is, you know what? Who are our competitors and what can we learn from them? Or who sells to the same type of buyer but sells something else? There's so much to learn from each of these organizations. Why? Because they're all talking. They're all tweeting. They're all putting up YouTube videos. They've all got websites. They're all doing, thought leadership PDFs. And so the first and biggest ask of all of you is listen. Be okay not knowing. I know it feels better to say I've been doing this a long time and therefore I have all the wisdom. That's actually not the greatest wisdom. The greatest wisdom is to ask the questions that are relevant to the day. And so the first duty is go on a voyage of discovery. Study competitors, study like-minded peers, listen to their podcasts, and don't grind your teeth angry about it. Feel lucky to get to hear it. Feel lucky to get to learn so dynamically and fluidly. So first and highest order of business is be open to the new knowledge. Be open to the insight that's now been made available. I'll give you an example. If I was branding one of your businesses 20 years ago, imagine how hard it was for us to study consumers and customers. You're selling them some big consulting. God, I had to get them to go to a focus group and half the people in the focus group didn't deserve to be there. Now you can get hot, fresh insight in a click. You really can know how your audience feels, and that's power. What that will enable you to do is better explain what you do. Brand mission is a powerful tool of simply explaining the value you bring. Now, this is not going to be a tagline. This is not going to show up on a business card. It's a resource. It's a foundation. It's like the concrete foundation of your home. It's there to support the infrastructure. Okay? A brand mission is a succinct expression of what we do and how we do it. Why is this important? Employees need it. They need to synchronize. Potential employees need it. Buyers who want none of your fluff need it. And that's why a key ingredient in a brand in the new normal is absolutely filled with clear, direct articulation of the value you bring. Now, as I said earlier, this is not a tagline. Well, nor does it need to come first, nor do you ever need to put it on a brochure. It may just simply be a content resource for you. And that might free you up a little bit. Writing your mission, not so that it sounds pithy, but writing it so that you've got sentences that you can pull from, language that you can resource. That will make this a much more powerful tool for you. But what's so cool about a really good mission is that you can match it up with a brand vision. And remember that vision is short for visionary. To look beyond, to look far forward. If the mission is tactical, functional, value today, what might happen to the category of next-gen businesses if we all do this right? What might happen to the future of fermented foods if we get this right? Well, the point of this is we want this, we say, hey, tell me what you do, but we are inspired by this. And so when you have the two together, you create the perfect balance for skeptics alike. Vision is about being visionary. What might happen if we get this right? Well, what sits between mission and vision? The most powerful word in branding, positioning. Positioning, the stake in the ground, climb the hill, we get our post. Where are we sending out our light? What is our beacon? Positioning, the unique place in the market that is ours to claim. I'd like to call it maybe the meat in the sandwich. Maybe it's the living room in the house. If the vision is, the landscaping and the decor, and the mission is the plumbing and the electricity, positioning is what does it feel like to be inside? What does it feel like to be immersed in this? Our unique place in the market that's ours to claim. And why is this so key? Well, you've heard about differentiating. You've heard about, like distinguishing your identity from that of your peers. And that works. It's fine. It's fine to be unique. But what this will eventually help you do, as I said earlier, impact. Create impact. And I don't just mean impact on the bottom line or in the pocketbook. I mean impact on the world. So you've all noticed that when a business succeeds, the consumer speaks up and says, wow, that's great business, but what have you done for the world lately? And that's where I have to force all of you to take into account something we call pro-social. You might have heard of corporate social responsibility or CSR or enterprise social giving. Why is this important? Because so many people took a hit during COVID, so many businesses have signs in them that say out of business, so many storefronts are vacant. Everyone now has this huge pile of empathy sitting on top of them where they were like, wow, I can't believe I'm still housed. I didn't lose my house. I can't believe most of my family is still healthy. And so now what we expect of all businesses, we expect them to make good products and provide consistent service, but we also need to know what they're doing with all that excess, with all that success. I'm happy to tell you, I don't want you writing any checks, okay? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about philanthropy at the end of the year so your taxes go down, people, because you can't talk about that. When your business says, we gave away $10,000 this year, you know what your clients say? Is that why you overcharged me? You know what your employees say? Is that why you didn't give me a raise? It's a shame that that's their response, but I want to help elevate you beyond this. I've told you 10 times now that I only do one thing, brand strategy. I've been doing philanthropy since it was embedded in my brain as a child and since the Boy Scouts reinforced it. But I'll tell you this much, I'm not good at lifting boxes. I'm not good at collecting extra groceries. I'm not good at painting houses. There are people so much better at that than I am. And that's why my philanthropy is only one thing. The only thing that I give away is that which I do best. I only give away brand strategy. Our firm innovation protocol, every one of our employees is doing nonprofit work. You know what kind of nonprofit work they're doing? Brand strategy, nonprofit. They're helping nonprofits articulate their unique value, helping nonprofits engage their donors. And what's crazy is you can't judge us for that. You have to say, damn, wow, your highest value service is what you give back to the world. That I can support and endorse. What's also super powerful about this is employees get really, really motivated by this. All of you who've hired anyone under the age of 25 lately knows They might ask you what the comp is, but the first thing they ask you is, cool, so what kind of, community service do we do? Well, what kind of community nonprofit work do I get to do? And so I want you to have an answer. Whatever you charge the most for is the only philanthropy you do. You do it with 1% of your time, 5% of your time, twice a year, during the holiday season. I don't care what it is. This turns out to be the stickiest brand action there is. This is the kind of stuff that when we hear about brands that do it, we can't do anything else other than like and subscribe, endorse and repost. There's plenty of examples of this, but I'll just give you one really pathetic one. You guys have all probably heard of the shoe company Tom's Shoes. Okay, good. Let me pop your balloon really fast. You know who Tom is? He was an internet porn entrepreneur who did so well by the time he was 25 that he got to exit and basically live the rest of his life untethered. Well, imagine if you're meeting your in-laws for the first time and they're like, so tell me about your business. Yeah, okay, perfect. So what did this person do? He went on a personal voyage, a journey of self-discovery, and he backpacked through South America. He's in the hills of Paraguay, and he saw some very poor people living in a shanty town with a pair of shoes made out of burlap. Burlap stitched together simply, worn on the feet of the poorest of the poor. And this internet porn entrepreneur says, oh my gosh, there's some hipsters in the US of A that would kill to have that product. But when the product only costs $1 to make, I mean, how much could you charge for it? You charge $5, the margins aren't worth it. So what did he do? How can I charge people $50 for my shoes? I know. 1 for 1. I'm going to convince them that if they buy a pair of shoes from me, I'm going to give a pair of shoes away. And Tom's Shoes became the fastest growing shoe brand in the United States. It was acquired by a private equity firm for billions in valuation. And let me tell you, the shoes are so crappy, the crappiest. They don't last long. They smell terrible. They don't look like premium shoes. Why are they the fastest growing shoe brand? This. Imagine if your business did this and you walk into that client, that really skeptical client who says, I'm really interested in hiring you, Lee. I like what I've heard, but I don't know. Tell me about someone you've helped. Tell me about a client of yours that you've really helped with their planning. And Lee says, you know what? Let me probably tell you about a client who couldn't pay. Let me tell you about someone who didn't have access to people like me. And let me tell you what I did to help ensure that their future and their children's future is secure. That's the kind of person you want to buy from, right? So what are you going to do? What are you going to talk to these people about? How are you going to get out front and ensure that they know and love you? My answer is really, really simple. You don't have to put on a clown costume. As I started our conversation today, I am not asking you to fabricate anything. I'm asking you to make sense of your category and how it works. That's what we're looking for from you. We don't understand, and we're scared to ask. You helping me make sense of how the category works, understand the nuances, that clarity, that drives purchase behavior. Duty number 1 is simply sense making. Duty number 2 is, oh, there are other people like me? I'm not the only one who needs a brand. I'm not the only nonprofit without a brand strategy. Really? Wow, I feel so normalized. I'm not the only family business that is having this problem where we don't know how to drive our next gen to leadership. Wow. Well, Alan and his colleagues built Next Gen Nexus in a very short period of time. Why? Because of this, because of what you and I are doing right now. What are we doing? Common moments where we all are challenged by this. We have next gen businesses, or we're helping next gen businesses, and they have common problems. And that common connection is bonding us, building trust. I promise we're all going to be friends on LinkedIn after this. But something I have to say to you is, if you're not including everyone, you're missing out on a lot of new business. Yes, diversity. Yes, equity. Yes, inclusion. but remind yourself that if you are not diverse, you're not giving people equal opportunity, you're not including everyone, you're literally just deleting 40% of your potential market. I'll give you an example. A lot of people take pictures for their websites and brochures, but they only include able-bodied people. Well, 10% of the US population is not able-bodied, and everyone eventually is not going to be able-bodied. So if you don't feature one not perfectly able-bodied person in your brochure, website, social media, you're actually excluding huge market potential. But more importantly, you're telling your coworkers, your family, your colleagues, and your customers that you know that life is better with all of us in it. What this will eventually do is it will get your customers to talk about you, to share, to repost, to click like on LinkedIn, to share it on their LinkedIn profile, to print out your thought leadership and give it to their colleagues and friends. This is the best marketing there is. When your community contributes and participates, they believe that they're as inspired and informed as you are. They take your words and they endorse and relay them. And so by doing what I've just explained, you basically invite the community to participate, you invite the community to share, and you unlock the most powerful marketing in the world, word of mouth. You all know it, right? You've heard it. You've been taught this for 100 years. There is no better marketing than word of mouth. I agree. Well, what are the citizens of the world going to speak about now? They're going to speak about this. They're going to speak about this. They're going to speak about this. And you are the catalyst for it. But how do you stand on the top of this pyramid of energy? How do you become the absolute leader in your category without being the biggest, without being the oldest, without being the fastest? And this is probably the thing I'm most excited to share. There's so much power up top of this hill called thought leadership. There's so much power in teach, don't sell. Teach, don't sell. I will buy from those who teach me. I will share that which informs me. I will give you permission to make mistakes on my account if you are who I learned from. Thought leadership can be a tweet. It can be a conference. It can be what Kathleen and Alan are doing here, bringing together like-minded people and having them learn together as a cohort. But what's so special about thought leadership is it's the most engaging type of content there is. No funny video, no, hey, this is how the product works video is going to get people to pay more attention to the videos that make them feel informed, to make them feel like they are getting exposure to all the insides and outsides of what it takes to do your work so that they feel most informed by it. I'll give you a great example. Innovation Protocol, my business, sells to Fortune 100s, small to medium businesses, governments, religions, etc. How does our little 25-person firm secure a company like Google as a client? You know, my competitors have 25 offices. I got 25 people I know and love personally. How do we get Google, Disney? How do we get those? I'm asking you. I don't have the marketing dollars and I'm not famous. We taught them stuff. They signed into a webinar. They asked us to come give a speech. Their employees attended and learned. Thought leadership is so sticky. It's so magnificent. And the best part about it is once you produce it, it sits on your website. It hangs out on your LinkedIn and people will come to you, try to know you, try to understand you, and they will come and fall upon your learnings and never forget you because of it. I know I'm acting a little impassioned right now, but I'm running out of time and I only have so much energy left to share with you why I'm really inspired to be with you today. Even though you and I are in different businesses and our customers operate differently, some of us are bigger, some of us are smaller, there's one thing that's common about every single person on this Zoom. The one thing that's common about every single person on this Zoom is we are all in business. That's our common denominator, folks. We are business people. Our customers are business people. People who buy from us are business people. And I want to ask you a sincere question. Are our governments going to save us? Are our religious leaders going to get their shit together, save us? Huh? I think that there's a lot of work they need to do. But there's one thing that never stopped during COVID. You and me doing this. And we're not just doing this, we're inspiring people while we do it. We're leading by example while we do it. We're employing people while we do it. Those employees go home to their families and they kiss their babies and they feel inspired by us as leaders. I'm just going to say it. I think that business is going to save us. Us doing business, collaborating, co-educating, co-inspiring, connecting. That's where inspiration is coming every single day. And so you acting progressively, acting out with intention, clear voice, intentional, clear voice. Guess what? You might be actually doing some good for the world as you're trying to do good for your family and friends. And so what I'm going to stop here and say is, be that train, be the energy source, be the one who gets in that meeting with your client and says, forward, onwards, upwards, now, let's go. They're not hearing it from others. They're dialing into their coworker calls and everyone's poo-pooed. They're watching the news and it's all bad news. They're reading their favorite paper. They're reading the tweets. You know that bad news makes money, right? Bad news makes money. Bad news makes money, and that's why it's all we hear about. So you get to be the good news train. You get to be the growth train, the inspiration train, the information train, the example train. And I promise you, this will all show up on the bottom line. This will all grow your business for what's next. We walked through a lot. We talked about how, wow, we pretty seamlessly transitioned. 9/10 of our relationships became digital. We worked remotely, we collaborated remotely, we sold remotely, and it worked. But on our downstream, it was hard. It's been hard. We feel isolated, we feel alone, we feel demotivated. But something told us that what was happening was unusual. It was unusual. It was unique in our lifetime. There's never been a world war like this. And that means that all of us are open, emotionally present, and interested in relationships that matter, new relationships that matter. What is a relationship? It's a brand. What is a brand? A consistent, durable connection that's worth investing in. What am I asking you to do? Be clear in your value with your mission. Inspire me with your visionary view on what happens next. Position yourself so I know where you fit in the marketplace. Tell me what good you do for the world with your pro-social behaviors. And through that communication and action, you can create common moments. You can include everyone. You can inspire us all to contribute and lead by an example as a best-in-class brand in the post-COVID era. That was a lot fast. We're theoretically out of time. I appreciate some of you returning to hear me a second time. For those of you that was a first time, let this not be the last. I'm so happy to work with NextGen Nexus and speak with you again. If you want case studies and projects and examples that you can learn directly from, I'm simply honored to be able to share with you today, and I'm here for questions and conversation. Thank you so much. Appreciate that, Michael. Thank you, Dennis. Appreciate that. Let's take a look at some of the comments and questions.
I have a few that came in, Sasha.
Okay, do it, Kathleen, please.
And then also, if anyone else has questions for Sasha, we've got a couple more minutes. You can either put them in the chat box or raise your hand. I can see it. I'd like to open it up for some comments here. A couple of these questions are kind of in review, but I think they're so important.
Great, let's do it.
What can family businesses do now that they couldn't do before, that you think they need to focus on to move forward?
Wonderful. Appreciate the kind comments. Let me answer Kathleen's question. So in the pre-internet era, who the leader of the business was the one who had the most face time in the marketplace. They were the ones who went to the trade show. They were the ones who interviewed the candidates. But in a hybrid era that we're in a post-COVID era, that's actually not necessarily the case. The most digitally prolific person is often the one that's the most synonymous with the business. And so, Kathleen, my answer to you is personal branding for that next gen. They can actually identify what makes them tick, what their hopes and visions might be, and then create digital imprints that endure. You know, the problem with going to a trade show is when the trade show's over, you got a pile of business cards, you can't remember who you spoke to. But in a digital era, the connection is permanent. It will last forever. You can source back to it. And so my biggest push for my second or third gen clients is personal branding for that next gen leader. Who are you? What do you believe? What part of the helm are you taking? And why is that your unique opportunity? And so this is kind of amazing because that next gen used to have to spend 20 years on the road trying to build up enough relationship to be equal to their, parent or grandparent. And now they don't. In 1 year, with some thought leadership and some strong digital presence, they can be more known than any generation before them.
Where do family businesses tend to get hung up in branding? What are some of the common hangups that they have?
The phrase, well, that's not how we used to do it. That's it. Everybody remembers when it was a relationship business. Oh, it's about relationships, son. Honey, stop asking me if we can do social media. That's really old hat. That's like, well, are we driving, we reading the newspaper or are we listening to the news on our smart device here, folks? Right? Okay. And so that's the biggest issue. In fact, that's where I end up mediating the most, is sitting down that first gen and saying, I know that's how you did it. And I know it worked then, but you live differently now and there's new ways to engage. We have to adapt to thrive.
I love that. I'm going to put you on the spot. You ready?
All right.
What's one success story where you took a client with a pain point, a family business, and you totally flipped their thinking and educated them? Just one success story that's one of your favorites.
Okay. So this is a family business that manufactures corrugated, basically cardboard, but corrugated is a little bit more sophisticated of a category. And the founder was an icon, just absolute icon in the category. It was like handshake business. And so the problem is that this company has 1 million square feet of manufacturing. And so how did the father recruit new talent? On the ground, face-to-face handshakes. Well, how many handshakes can they have? I mean, that's a lot of travel. It's a lot of junior college walkthroughs. The son was like, listen, I'm in graduate school. How did I find out about graduate school? How do I engage my classmates? How do I engage my professors? We do it remotely as much as we possibly can. So what did the son do? Created virtual interviews every Thursday, open forum. Anybody who wants to come work, guess what? Thursday afternoon, anyone can dial in. We'll have guest speakers. We'll take you on tours. It happens every Thursday. So that way, anytime there's an inquiry, anytime there's a job referral, everyone comes to that Thursday pass. Next, once Thursday goes well, you want a second and third interview? We don't have to schedule it, fly you in. No, we do the second and third interview remotely. And once you've passed through the quick 15-minute gut check, now we'll fly you in. Now we'll host your family. They're interviewing 10 times more people in a week than they ever interviewed in a month, because that next gen was willing to push the father to acknowledge that there's a new way to engage and recruit talent. It's amazing. It's amazing to watch them grow.
Wow. That's quite incredible.
Yeah. And it's a shame because it took a fight.
Well, you changed the paradigm in their thinking. You help navigate that, which is huge, impactful.
Well, Kathleen, how about the pinch? So you can imagine 1 million square feet. If you're not running those machines, you're losing money, right? It's 24-hour, you run those machines, okay? Well, when 5 employees got recruited, you had a crisis. I mean, the machine, that $1 million machine is just sitting there rotting. So, okay, let's call up the junior college and you'll drive across town. No, now the son is like, virtual interviews starting tomorrow. Great. Email campaign to all of our partners, networks, friends, LinkedIn ads, etc. Boom. Pops, I've got 50 candidates coming into our Thursday information session. Hopefully we'll hire 2 of them by Friday. Will that help? I mean, like, can you imagine going back? Can you imagine the way that it was? And by the way, the reason why it's a branding answer, Kathleen, is because employer branding, right? Who is this company and why am I going to work for you? Okay, you're the biggest, or okay, you've been around a long time. Thank you. Well, employer branding is, what does it mean to work here? Who works here and why? Where do we build cardboard for nonprofits, right? And that entices people to log in and get interviewed.
Great way for personal branding. So I think we have time for one more question.
Michael's been an awesome listener this whole time. I'm so honored to take your question, Michael, please.
I kept my eyes open. Thank you. So my question is, many of us are in service businesses where we have liability when we want to expand to other places. So what I tell people often is my passion, with 10,000 seniors retiring every day in this country, most have nothing but Social Security to live on. Our financial roadmap makes it worry-free. Okay. So if I'm thinking about donating my time and energy, it exposes us to liability in the financial services business, for example, because I know there's folks on the call.
Yes.
And attorneys or other people like that. How would you try and balance the liability with the branding you're discussing?
Such a great question, Michael. Let's try this on. Maybe you don't actually need to do that which warrants liability. And maybe you can put on educational forums for all those seniors who aren't getting access to this insight. You do 2 forums a month, and you seek out senior facilities and partners who have the demographic that you technically serve, but you're there not marketing yourself, nothing. You're just there as Michael, making sure that seniors find someone who does this. Find a source that will professionally guide you on this. This is so important. Let me tell you 10 reasons why this is important to your future. That still gives you all the love and credit, but you mitigate the risk of the liability of giving counsel that ends up affecting someone's finances. Does that help you a little bit?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, perfect. That's one thing, Michael. Another thing that you can do is bring this knowledge to your colleagues and competitors and say, listen, there are folks who can afford us, the folks that maybe have the right family members involved or might have the right compensation, capital in their accounts, but hey, we know that there's a lot of people who don't. So let's just put it all on ourselves that we're going to make sure to educate and inform any chance that we get in select environments. And that in itself, you being a person who is pushing others to make this type of contribution, that will also shine beautifully on you, because you're kind of going to be the movement leader. You're the one who's really trying to change their view and help them understand that we can't just make money on our clients. There are people who will never have access to us. And it's my duty to help them. And it's what my employees want to hear and know. And as I said with Google earlier, for the companies that are the most skeptical, or the client who's the most skeptical, how do I tell them a story about the impact I make? I tell them a story about someone who couldn't afford what I do. Thank you, Michael.
That's excellent. Any other last questions? We do have a couple leadership members on the call today. I don't know if they want to open up, but before we close out on the program, we've got just a couple minutes left. We've got Sasha now. So anyone want to share anything?
Okay, while we're waiting for a hand or a question, I want to implore you to do something called listening online. And what I mean is finding peers who sell what you sell, but maybe they sell it in a different region, maybe they sell to a different buyer, and to follow them on LinkedIn and just watch what they post. That's it. Call it social listening. Don't use your real name, make up a handle, and it's just your research mechanism. And I want you to see how regularly they post, what type of content they share, and you'll realize quite quickly that you can play the exact same game. It's not about saying something every day. It's not about being the fastest actor. It's about a regular cadence of information and education that unfolds over time. And so do that social listening. It's going to teach you a lot quite quickly. You also will learn about the fads and terminology that is coming around the corner. Raise your hand if you heard of NFTs. No? Okay, so some of us, right? Angelina, perfect. Heath. If you haven't heard of NFTs, you're in for a ride. And I suspect that somebody in your world is going to bring it up to you. How did I learn about NFTs? Non-fungible tokens. I learned about them because I do social listening. I watch my competitors talk. I see what they're discussing. I see their customers chatting about it. And I say, oh, Sasha, you better learn about NFTs because someone's going to ask you about it in time. So anyway, that's the social listening behavior that is so informative.
Sasha, I'd like to jump in with a quick question.
Alan.
Telling the family business story is just such a staple in the lives of family businesses. And I'm just wondering how you think that kind of fits into the new paradigm.
Yes, family business stories are really juicy because as soon as I start hearing it, I think about, wow, how hard it is to work with family and so many years and through trials and tribulations and economic depressions. Like, wow, wow, wow. You see that opens up like a lot of empathy for me. Like I want to care. Whereas if I say to you, oh yeah, I founded this app business that tries to get people to buy more shoes faster. Like, I don't care how cool the app is. There's like nothing to suck on there. There's nothing chewy to sink your teeth into. And that's why family business tends to like get people curious. Like, oh, now I'm interested. As I said earlier, though, the family business tends to be about the legacy and not the future. And that's what I'm really trying to push you all towards. Yes, legacy. Yes, interesting. But what's more important is how the legacy inspired the next gen to build the future. How the legacy inspired the next gen to build the future. And that's where I really, really want the brands to focus.
That's perfect. That is absolutely perfect. I hope the families on this call today take at least a fourth of what you've shared with us in your wisdom, Sasha. You're always so incredible. We are so grateful for your knowledge, your guidance, and the support of our community. And with that, I'd like to close for the evening and want to thank on behalf of you, Sasha Strauss, Alan S. Rock, our founder of Next Gen Nexus, our leadership committee members, Heath Goldman and Gideon's Grunfield. We want to thank you and thank all of our support for Next Gen Nexus. We look forward to the 2021 growth and doing our own personal branding and listening. We look forward to following up with you next week, and we hope to see you at our next virtual session for Family HR Talent 101 with Dr. Carrie Orlick on May 13th at 2 p.m. Pacific time. I'll put all of this next week in our thank you email, and what will be very exciting and included will be a review of the hiring practices of the Sopranos. It would be great to see you. We'll attach the registration. And with that, I want to thank everyone today for attending. Be kind to one another. My name is Kathleen Tepley, and we appreciate you. Thank you and good night. Bye for now. Thank you, Sasha.
Thanks, everyone.